Mm, 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 mm. Hey, so today I thought we would look at the pink letter and see if we really do think it is from Ramsey. I kind of think it is, and then other days I can completely convince myself any other which direction. So let's have a look at this little mystery. At the end of A Dance with Dragons, John receives a very threatening letter from Ramsey. But a few chapters before that, we see inside of Winterfell in Theon's Latch chapter, where he is escaping with Jane Paul, who is posing as Arya Stark, not Sansa like in the show. And Abel slash Mance has these six washerwomen, which are other wildlings. They are helping Theon and Jane escape. The washerwomen's disguises are blown, they are taking arrows. Theon and Jane are desperate, jump over the walls of Winterfell into a snowy drift, and that's the last we see of Theon's story in that book. A couple of chapters on, John receives a letter. He is sat, in his chambers, I think it is, talking to Tormund. Clydas comes in, very shaken, notably looking more white than his usual pink. Funny, because we call it the pink letter. And he is trembling, afraid to give this letter to John, but feels like it's very bad. He hasn't read it because the seal isn't broken. It's noted that John breaks the seal, the wax seal for the letter, and, reads the contents. He then is obviously quite concerned and relays it to Tormund. Tormund just completely dismisses it. He's like, if I had myself a quill and a whatever of ink, I could write that me member was as long and thick as me arm. It doesn't make it true. And John is very much like, well, I'm gonna have to go and deal with this. Assembles the wildlings in the shield hall, is like, the men of the Night's Watch are gonna go to Hardhome, deal with the walls situation. I am gonna go to Winterfell and deal with Ramsey. If anyone wants to come with me, you're welcome. Obviously, they're all like, oh, hell yeah. And he leaves the shield hall, and who is it? One Darweg one. I bet I've got that wrong. The giant. He is out there playing with the soldiers of the Baratheon army like they are just ragdolls. And things are very intense out there. John tries to calm the situation, and Witspittle, I think it's Whittle Spick. That guy. He takes a slash at John, and then he just gets stabbed up 3 or 4 times and then is led down in the snow. So we don't know what's going to happen after this point. But who sent that letter? What incited John into making that decision to say, look, I am going to go and deal with Ramsey? Because I feel like, as the Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, they're not supposed to take part in these things. So, I mean, surely Ramsay Bolton isn't the Warden of the North by default, and as the Lord Commander, you should be like, look, Warden of the North, one of your lords is threatening me. Deal with them. I'm not supposed to take part in this. You're supposed to go for aid. I feel like John isn't supposed to abandon the watch, but I can totally see why he does. Um, Also, he has heard that Ramsay is married to Arya Stark and, personally wants to go and deal with this. So we do have a sample chapter from The Winds of Winter, which is from Theon's point of view. And he is reaching and reached the Crofters village where Stannis is, and he is being held prisoner in this tower. Like, he wakes up, he's on this wall. It recalls his journey there, and yeah, he is just pleading for death because he is terrified that Ramsay is coming after him. He knows he's escaped. He's going to come and get him, and that is the worst possible ending, like the worst result for Theon. Asha is there, and she is trying to convince Stannis to just like execute him in the northern style. But a lot of Stannis's men, they are desperate up there, and they're calling for a burning. So, yeah, things are not looking good for Theon. My question is, though, is that we know that George did take a couple of chapters out of the end of A Dance with Dragons to move into the next book. So was Theon's perhaps moved into the next book without the foresight of like, oh, well, he's going to, like, John's going to have received this letter. So it kind of jumbles up the timeline a bit. Is that a possibility? I don't know. Uh, it seems like too much of an oversight to be the case, though. So let's get into this mystery. Its contents. Your false king is dead, bastard. He and all his host were smashed in 7 days of battle. I have his magic sword. Tell his red whore. Your false king's friends are dead. Their heads upon the walls of Winterfell. Come see them, bastard. Your false king lied, and so did you. You told the world you burned the king beyond the wall. Instead, you sent him to Winterfell to steal my bride from me. I will have my bride back. If you want Mance Rayder back, come and get him. I have him in a cage for all the North to see. Proof of your lies. The cage is cold, but I have made him a warm cloak from the skins of the 6 whores who came with him to Winterfell. I want my bride back. I want the false king's queen. I want his daughter and his red witch. I want his wildling princess. I want his little prince, the wildling babe. And I want my reek. Send them to me, bastard, and I will not trouble you or your black crows. Keep them from me, and I will cut out your bastard's heart and eat it. It was signed Ramsay Bolton, Trueborn Lord of Winterfell. What an insult. So, yeah, that's pretty brutal. Sounds like Ramsay. Very threatening. Let's have a look at the evidence for it being from Ramsay. It's signed by him. It's written, so say, in his style of writing. And if it wasn't, I'm sure the war has received a letter from him in the past, so it would be recognized and maybe noted that it wasn't in his style of writing. It is signed with the pink wax, and the rescue attempt from the washerwomen was discovered, so Mance could be a prisoner and his spearwives dead. Let's have a look at the counter-argument. The letter is unlike other letters by Ramsay, who previously sent pieces of skin in his letters and used blood to write them. Okay, that's very true. If the if Mance and his washerwomen were discovered, then, and he's got him in a cage, why wouldn't he just send a bit of skin to, you know, be more menacing and also write it in his blood because I'm sure he's got excess available. Maybe Mance just doesn't have a identifying mole or something that he can send to John and be like, "Here, this is Mance." I'm joking, but yeah, that does sound like something Ramsay would do. It's very, I mean, he's threatening to eat his heart. It doesn't seem too far fetched for him to just send a little bit of skin with his letter. Next, the smear of pink is in contrast to the Bolton seal on Ramsay's other letters. I can't think of a reason that wax would change color. Like, you heat it up and melt it and then dribble it and it changes color. It doesn't matter if there's like snow on the letter because wax and water wouldn't mix or wouldn't change the color of it. Perhaps something to do with the cold. I don't know enough about the chemistry of wax to say either way. Although it does sound more likely that somebody has whipped up a quick batch of wax looking slightly similar to use if it's an imposter writing the letter, because if it was truly Ramsay and he had his letter writing kit at hand, then they would just have a big stash of wax to melt for for using for the wax seal, surely. Weird. Next, it is implausible that there could have been 7 days of battle. Again, maybe this takes me back to the timeline thing with it's being implausible for the 7 days of battle. Perhaps there actually was 7 days of battle and the timeline is jumbled. Theon and I mean, we know from the sample chapter that I would say we know they are subject to change, but that Jane and is it Tychonosaurus were sent off by Stannis to keep them safe, essentially, because he knows that the armies, the Frey and Manderley armies, are about to descend on him. But he has his little plan, we think, the whole night lamp theory. Um, Perhaps there was 7 days of battle fighting back and forth across this lake. Maybe one of the armies goes in first and then, yeah, it's a bit of a stalemate. So 7 days of battle and the timeline is just jumbled and Theon escapes. Hmm. The next point is supposedly Ramsay asking for Janepool and Theon is odd, considering when they were last heard of, they were in the Crofters' village and are unlikely to be able to escape. Jane was sent away, yeah, but Theon is imprisoned in the village and would have been found if Ramsay defeated Stannis. Not necessarily. If there's a lot of chaos, I mean, are they completely surrounded? Um, there's a lot of snow there, so yeah, it could be easy to get lost out there and slip off out like a lot of Stannis's soldiers are supposedly doing, abandoning him because it's such a desperate situation. Hmm. Um, the next one, Jon Snow doesn't know that Ramsay forced the name Reek on Theon Greyjoy. Ramsay should know this and to ask for Theon by name. Again, if he really defeated Stannis, he would have recaptured Theon and not asked for him at all. It is still possible that Ramsay wrote the letter but didn't defeat Stannis, but is lying in his contents. And in this case, Ramsay assumes that Theon and Jane managed to make the long journey to the wall on foot, through heavy snows, which in itself is unlikely. I mean, but Stannis supposedly has sent Tychonosaurus and Jane off to try and escape this whole battle. So, nah. The next point is that maybe Ramsay is in such a fury at losing his bride and his reek that he isn't really thinking clearly, and he wasn't a very rational character to begin with. So asking Jon for Theon by a name he doesn't know might be a simple oversight on Ramsay's part. Very fair, because Ramsay is just like 1 to 100, like that is scenes. He is, I mean, you say 1 to 100, maybe he's just secretly lying at 95 and it appears like 1. But yeah, do you know what I mean? Anyway, was it Ramsay? I sometimes think it is maybe this timeline jumble and Theon escaped. However, the contents of the letter and the way he speaks, I'm not sure. If Ramsay has captured Mance, then how does he know about the Wildling babe, the princess, and all this and that? I mean, he would have had to have tortured that out of Mance, and he seems like a strong character. I don't think he would just talk for giving Ramsay something to use against him. Although maybe he got that out of the washwomen, because, I don't know. Goddamn, I don't know. The next suspect is Stannis Baratheon. He's a tricksy little one, isn't he? Very plotting. He keeps his cards close to his chest. So the argument for it being Stannis is that he may be tricking Jon into bringing assistance. I mean, he certainly needs it. The last appearance implied that he had a plan to defeat the Boltons and the Freys, meaning that he was not likely defeated. Yeah, maybe he's not defeated in the like in the Crofters village, but wants Jon's help to take Winterfell. I also kind of think the way it's written in the letter saying, I want the wildling princess, I want the wildling prince, like Stannis, being quite a southerner, doesn't really understand the wildling ways. And when he meets the wildlings, he's like, oh, so you're the king beyond the wall. Oh, so she must be a princess and this must be a prince then, right? Yeah. Like the wildlings don't consider themselves born into things and related like in that way. So maybe was Stannis writing these things, being like, oh, I want this, you know, call them a princess, a prince. Whereas, again, would Ramsay know about these people? The counter-argument for it not being Stannis is that Stannis knows it would take many days for Jon to come from the wall. True, but maybe that's why he's sending that letter before actual battle? Jon Snow has no way of knowing that Reek refers to Theon Greyjoy. Whoever wrote the letter honestly believes that Theon has escaped to the wall and thus would explain to Jon that Ramsey forced the name Reek on him. If Stannis still has Theon in his custody, he would know this and wouldn't have used the name Jon wouldn't recognize. However, arguing that saying, "Oh, I want my Reek," it makes it sound very much like Ramsay, doesn't it? Because why should Ramsay upgrade Theon to his actual name when he is just a possession to Ramsay? Like, I want my Reek. He's such a, one of them. Another one is, it is implausible for Stannis to use trickery to make Jon break his vows. I mean, is it? Is it? Stannis was very much encouraging Jon to break his vows to the Night's Watch. Before he surely even before he was sworn in as Lord Commander. Going like, look, I'll make you Lord of Winterfell. Marry her. We can sort all this stuff out, make good deals. But Jon wouldn't do that. But now with the added threat of, well, Stannis is dead. You have a threat from Ramsay to, he's going to come for you. So you've got to go and deal with him. Kind of tricking him into abandoning the Night's Watch and doing a one-man army, but taking the wildlings with him. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe because Stannis would also want the wildlings for help. They are used to traveling in bad weather because it is not nice beyond the wall, is it? That's why it's like, beyond the wall. The wall is fucking snowy all year round. So, yeah, Stannis is going to want those wildlings. So, of course, he's going to be like, oh, I want the wildling princess. I want the wildling babe. It gives a bit more threat to it. Like, I'm going to come for them if you don't bring them to me, and I'm going to kill you as well. So, yeah, kind of encouragement. Hmm, I don't know. See, now I'm convinced it's Stannis. Right. Next suspect, Mance Rayder. He is probably literate, as shown by the Able anagram. Yeah, he knows because he goes by Able in his, disguise in Winterfell. But, it's like the Bale the Bard story of, you know, the wildling coming to Winterfell. And yeah, so he's literate. Okay, he's smart. Yeah. He probably could write a letter. I can't imagine his handwriting would be very good either, so he could probably pull off a good Ramsay handwriting. The next point, Mance may be attempting to bring the wildlings south, knowing that they will be loyal to him. Again, very true, very true. The message may contain a code for Melisandre, sorry. Does anyone get annoyed how I say Melisandre? Because I read it Melisandre, and when I was younger, I used to have a video, like a VHS, of this kid's film called Andre. It was this sea lion who makes friends with a little girl, and his name was Andre, so I say Melisandre. Sometimes I feel like it should be Melisandre, but I'm just not that eloquent. Anyway, it may contain a code for Tangent Over. It may contain a code for Melisandre. The letter even says, tell his red whore. I think that's loose. I don't see how that can be a code for her. The terms false king and black crows match the wildling style of speaking. Yes, they absolutely do. Why would Ramsay call them crows? I mean, I know he is northern born, but it seems more something that is wildling or Night's Watch speak rather than something the people of the North or Seven Kingdoms would say. I don't know. What do you think on that point? I also, with him asking for I want the wildling princess. I want this. Like posing as Ramsey. If Mance is posing as Ramsey asking for the wildling princess, maybe he assumes that Ramsey would refer to them as a princess and a prince, hence why asking for that. Question. Also, I do believe, like, maybe the washerwomen did get all caught up within the chaos of Theon and Jane escaping, but perhaps Mance is surviving and being literate and a tricksy little bird. He can just, kind of write the odd letter, get a bird out, get it sent to Jon, try and get help sent to Winterfell with his wildling army. See, now I'm more convinced it's Mance. The counter-argument, when last seen, the rescue attempt was going wrong, meaning Mance may not have been in a position to send letters. Very true, very true. I've got faith in Mance. I think he's posing as a guard. Anyway, the ghost in Winterfell. No, is he? No. The next suspect is Wyman Manderley. He is actively planning to betray the Boltons. Very true. Wyman, as a Northman, would understand better than Southerners that the Night's Watch and the thousands of wildlings it is sheltering wouldn't move against the Boltons due to their political neutrality. Wyman may therefore have wanted to frame Ramsay for threatening to murder the Lord Commander of the Night's Watch to provide Jon Snow with a legal excuse to finally move against the Boltons. Okay, maybe it is more of a legal excuse for him to do that. Maybe it's more of a grey area and it depends on your decision of whether he is abandoning the Night's Watch or has the legal excuse to take action. Stannis may have in fact been defeated, but forced a Pyrrhic victory on the Boltons. Wyman would know this because he's with the Boltons at Winterfell, in which case this would spur his decision to get Jon Snow and the Night's Watch to help. Very true. Very true. Wyman may be desperate and may be willing to go to these lengths. He is quite a little plotter. Wyman has been present with the Boltons at Winterfell and thus would probably be somewhat familiar with Ramsay's speaking and writing style. He knows how insulted Ramsay gets when called a bastard, and would know that a letter Ramsay wrote to Jon would be filled with insults about his bastard status. Very true, very true. That does just remind me, though, when Clydas takes Jon the letter, and it's simply addressed to bastard. And the fact that Clydas gets it and is like, oh, this must be for Jon Snow is quite funny. I mean, who else is it really going to be for? And, but yeah, it's funny. The next point is Wyman has demonstrated his use of subterfuge before, making a show of dragging off Davos for execution to convince the Boltons and Lannisters of his loyalty, when his true intentions were actually the opposite. True. Stannis is willing to use the ruses of war against his enemies, but is typically more honest with his allies. Wyman, in contrast, has been shown to be willing to trick his allies if it will serve the greater good. For example, not to tell Davos his real intentions, so Davos' spirit being dragged away would seem genuine to the phrase. True, and he did reveal his intentions afterwards to Davos. Wyman doesn't know that Stannis has Theon and Jane Poole, so he may have falsely assumed that Arya Stark would flee to the wall. Wyman was at Winterfell and knows that Ramsay calls Theon Reek. If Wyman believes that Theon and Jane managed to get to the wall, he would use the name Reek to convincingly imitate Ramsay and assume Theon would explain it to him. Okay, yeah, no, this is quite convincing for Manderley. It isn't clear how Ramsay would even know about Mance's infant son and sister-in-law Val at the wall, unless he tortured the information out of him, but he wouldn't know to ask in the first place. See, like I said earlier. Davos, however, was at the wall with Stannis and would have known about what prisoners were taken after the Battle of Castle Black, even if Davos stayed at East Watch by the Sea. Stannis would have given him a report of Castle Black in the same written message that instructed him to go to White Harbour. Davos, in turn, could have told Wyman Manderley once he revealed his true plans. True, maybe they have a conversation that takes part um, that we don't see in Davos's point of view yet, or between, I don't know, maybe. Hmm, I'm less convinced at that point, but still a possibility. Jon Snow had to directly explain to Stannis that the position of king beyond the wall is not hereditary, and thus Mance's son isn't really a prince, nor his sister-in-law a wildling princess. In contrast, the Manderleys are located in the southernmost part of the north and rarely have to interact with the wildlings, perhaps enough that Wyman himself doesn't know about this detail of wildling culture. Hmm. Wouldn't it be really good if, whilst Mance is at Winterfell, he kind of discovers that Wyman is planning to betray the Boltons and makes an alliance with Wyman? Anyway, so the counter argument for it not being Manderley is when Jon Snow reads the letter, he makes no mention that it isn't in Ramsay's handwriting. Okay, yeah. See, like we said, like they would know Ramsay's handwriting and it's not in it. That's why I'm like, yeah, but Mance not really writing very often. Maybe he can pull off a good Ramsay handwriting style. Ramsay could have found out about the Wildling Princess and the Little Prince by just torturing one of Stannis' foot soldiers or scouts he managed to capture, who similarly wouldn't understand that the Wildlings don't use those terms. Okay, true. True. There's more. Yeah, if there was the battle and Ramsay did write the letter, then he would know about these things from the foot soldiers. Damn, see, this is why I'm like, oh, I just don't know. Okay, so other potential suspects. Is it Melisandre? I personally don't think so. She, like, yeah, maybe she's doing a bit of a little finger and she's like, oh, chaos. Chaos is a ladder. I'm gonna set things off. But, yeah, she knows that the Night's Watch is on edge, and yeah, she already warns Jon to watch his back. So why would she incite this action that is gonna essentially get him killed? Um, I mean, I don't think she has that much faith in herself that she'll be like, "Oh, I'll get him killed, and then I'll just bring him back to life." Maybe she does, um, but I don't feel like that would be her plan. The next suspect, Dolores Ed. I'm joking. I'm fucking joking. I love that guy. Right. Do we have any other suspects? Lady Dustin. I've heard her name thrown around. I'd like because we like that she's a bit like stubborn and just speaks her mind, but I think that's given her too much credit that she would plot something like that. And I, yeah, Stannis. I wouldn't put it past him to do that. But I kind of feel like I hope it's Mance. Are there any other suspects? What do you think? Let me know. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hello to new subscribers as well. Thank you for joining. And I'll see you next time. Cheerio.